I would just tell us a little bit about DJing and like what goes into that and when, what tell us what that is. I mean, I know what DJing is, but like, what is y'all's process like as a group and as brothers, as two DJ brothers? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'll tell you something. I used to fucking hate DJs. I really did. I used to think
that's where we're starting.
Yep. They were nothing but like an aux cord, and I was like, "What is this really?"
Oh, nothing but an aux cord. Dang.
Yeah. So I was like, "Nah, what is this?" But then I realized I was like, "Oh shit, no, it's actually like a whole lot more complicated than that." Michael got a DJ board one day when we were in high school, and I was just kind of confused. I was like, "I don't know what we're gonna do with it," and it was just kind of confusing. And the more we played about with it, we more realized this like crazy musical potential behind this thing. Mm-hmm. And it is so much more than just like, you think like, oh, it's a party, you just play the hits and things like that, but it's not. You can really quickly throw up until you're actually think about like when you're in the car with your friends. Until you're actually put on the aux, that can be a big thing. Like it can be you can make and ruin friendships with that.
It's a big role.
So that is really where we started. So the process has been trying to figure out like a good strategy for going to parties, getting events right, but then also smooth transitions between everything. Mm-hmm. You want to cultivate like a nice, what we do is like, we say like it's a 5 set. So with it, it's kind of like,
it's like a roller coaster.
It is, yeah. So like you want to have 5 songs that all go together in some way or another. But you want to make sure that you don't
nice, man.
if you want your 5 set to be right, we kind of do it in like a, I guess what shape would you call it? Kind of like a peak. So you want to start off with a song, and then your following song should build on that one. And then your third song should be like the highest. But then after a while, you can't keep building songs up at a party because it leaves you with nowhere to go. Like I think you were playing Hanover. Hanover College.
Yeah, I was playing at Formal. Right, like a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
And I'd done it once before at a sorority, but this was at a fraternity. And it ended at midnight. And so as a DJ, you kind of got your eyes on the clock as to like when things end and like, okay, what are we ending on kind of thing. And I can only describe this last 25 minutes as like a hurricane of white people music. And
nice.
I had stirred up a storm playing that. But
dude,
I hit a point with like 3 minutes left, which is like one song really, where I'd hit everything. I'd hit like the last one was Mr. Brightside. I'd hit like all these different songs.
Sweet Caroline.
Yeah, I'd hit every single one of them you can think of.
Okay,
really
so
crazy.
yeah. Okay.
3 minutes left. No idea what I'm going to, and when the song was kind of fading out and I was ready to struggling to transition into the next one, I actually heard someone saying, what on earth is he going to follow that up with?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's another, that teaches another point too about knowing your audience, because you got to understand, like the parties that we normally play, the people would not, like, we do stuff in Chicago too. And the people of Chicago would not take well to Mr. Brightside coming on like at a party.
Yeah, no. I bet.
It's a whole different like scene. So you've got to know who is in the crowd and like what kind of people are coming to that event. What are they expecting? And then how can you work that in, but also surprise them at the same time?
Dude, absolutely. That's amazing. So the 5 song kind of set, the 5 set you were saying. Talk a little bit more about that. Like, what would be if you had 5 songs that you were playing at, so like you said, there was a bunch of, when you were playing at Hanover, it was a bunch of white people music. You stirred up a storm. What would be, so for like, if you were DJing in Chicago, like you said, and they didn't like Mr. Brightside, what would be an example of like a 5 song set or a 5 set, like different songs you would play?
Mm-hmm. 5 song set. So one of the things you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to play a same artist over and over again.
And you never play the same song twice. Ever.
That's a sin. That makes sense. Cardinal sin in DJing. That makes sense though.
Yeah. Okay. So like one that you could start off with was you could run into like Like what one you could start with if you were starting off something like, okay, so you want an opener. You want one song for your first track that's going to explode and people are going to know what it is. So for if I'm in Chicago, I'm probably going to play Father Stretch My Hands Part 1. Start it off, Hometown Hero, that kind of thing.
Yes,
then you want to follow up with something that's around the same tempo and around the same bounce. What would you follow that up with?
It's funny when DJing, like a lot of DJs write out like 30-song sets and all of that. But we're really, I mean, we've kind of mastered the notion of switching between songs, that we can really read the room and like wing it, the whole thing kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and it works to where you start a song and then based on the first 45 seconds, you can kind of tell where it's landed, that kind of thing. And from there on in, you've got the headphones on, you're figuring out the next one. So
I'd say like you could go like Father Stretch My Hands, and then something a little bit softer, like you could play the first little bit of Untitled 7 by Kendrick Lamar. And then you can take the whole high on the third one. Like you play just that little bit at the beginning, just like him with the beat and everything. And then you could take it to the real high on number 3. You could go something like Sicko Mode. You know, like something that's just going to make the place explode.
Of course. Or Mo Bamba, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but that's okay, cool. Okay,
and
so
then
what?
You take it down from there because it's like all right, Sicko Mode. That's like Travis Scott and a Drake feature. It's like, there's nowhere to go from there. You can't take that to like a higher thing. So you got to find a way after that to do songs 4 and 5, which let you down. So it's like you want to have things that are a bit lower intensity, and then once you figure out those two, then you start the whole process over again.
Yeah.
So it's just like that throughout. So that's kind of like how you guide your shows, like the 5-song.
But it's hard to find a good remix of things at times. It can be, you want to present music to people in a new way, but you also got to know that if it's a really lovable song, people will want to hear the original version. So it takes like a knowledge of also what people want. That takes communication with people.
We talking about the 5 set. Talk a little bit about what is the importance of transitioning as a DJ into different songs. Like what is the Leave the Door Open, the first note of that was the same ending note on the last song.
Yeah.
So that obviously works. That's important. But like, how important really are transitions as a DJ? It's got to be huge.
It's the art form, is what it is. That's the entire art form. Is the transitions to try and get things to work together. It takes a comprehensive knowledge of like music theory, of rhythm, tempo, key, and like arrangement. So you have to have a vast knowledge of like music, not only from like a sonic perspective, but also from like how it makes people feel, the speed of it, and those kind of things. So the entirety, you want a song to have begun in a transition to happen so fast and so quickly that it almost like takes people a second and then they realize, oh my god, it's a different song. But it was so smooth that they didn't even notice like the transition into it.
And so do not leave it silent at any point.
Yes, never let the music die, ever.
What happens if it goes silent?
Then I am going to come up with some. Well, yeah,
you leave people with time to think and turn around and talk. Exactly, yeah. You ever been dancing and then the music like completely cuts it? It's just like, wow, I feel like it's like a roller coaster stopping in the middle of the tracks. Yeah. It's like, damn, okay.
Dang. Okay.
But no, it's interesting. Like if I don't have a next song and I'm winging it, and I'm like, okay, where on earth are we going? Or I get sidetracked because Karen's yelling in my ear or something like that.
Come on, Karen.
Come on.
Usually what I'll realize is I'll realize that it's ending. And depending on what song, whatever it is, I'll find some sort of way of looping. So what I'll do is I might loop it the last 8 bars and then cut out the high ends, so it's just all low ends. And it's just kind of riding like that, which means it's quieter, but it's not. People aren't going to realize because they're not. You can't hear it that well.
Yeah, it's all about perception. It's all about perception.
And so people don't realize that it's the same song. They're just hearing this kind of low frequency. And that gives you time to rise into whatever one you're going to next.
And with that looping, you can also do like the classic, they call it like the EDM rise.
Yeah, you
so
can
you
do
can
that
have
too.
like dum
But
dum 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 dum
Yeah.
dum, and then speed it up, and then pause it for like a hair of a second. So it gives, you can use the pauses to your advantage, but only when they're very brief.
Very
so
small.
pause allows people to go, what? And then you hit the new song, and then but it has to be within like a blink of an eye in order for it like to catch the people right at the right time. So you catch their attention and then hit them with a banger.
Catch their attention and hit them with a banger.
yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, that's super cool.
It can be really hard. Unless you making music to be performed live is a great tool to do. So making music with live
performance in mind. Yeah.
can be a great guide for what kind of instruments and things you want to do. But with the producer, you're gifted and cursed, because you're kind of like a master of none. You can do everything, but then you don't know what to settle on.
The creative process is a roller coaster, bro.
Fiendish beast.
A fiendish beast, exactly.
Part of being an artist is being an artist and like having an idea of what things are. And like suggestions and whatnot. Even if it is, I kind of like this album, and I kind of like the way this person makes music, and I'd kind of like to sound like him or her. Can we try something similar even? Like something, I mean, that goes a long way. I write lyrics, even for other people and whatnot, and I'll be the first to admit, like, if someone's making a song, like, it might not come to me on the spot kind of thing, but but that doesn't mean I'm not going to stop listening to it. Like, I'll be like, okay, bounce it, I'll listen to it, and I kind of keep going with it and try some different things. I'll play it in the car, I'll play it in the shower, I'll play it wherever it needs to get heard until I've got something to write with it kind of thing. Because I think a lot of people think that the writing process comes from the studio itself. But just to be clear, like London Drill in hip-hop in the UK, it's so recent. Like, it's been around quite a while, but its acceptance, like,
I know,
is nuts. So, like, even as far, like, as recent as, like, 2015. So I think, what was it? There's only ever been one UK hip-hop artist, like, headline a major festival in the UK. Ever.
Who was it?
It was Stormzy.
Oh, okay.
A few years ago. But as far as, like, outside the UK, they had, in 2015, I mean, they had Jay-Z a while before that. But just as an example, they had Kanye in 2015, and the organizers were receiving death threats because they did not want him on the stage, kind of thing. So there is this...
Poor Kanye.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like... And so it's that kind of atmosphere. Like, they're very specific what they want to hear. People love 80s music for sure, all the time. And one of the big, like, if you're not into dance or you're not into hip-hop, then it's BRIPHOP, which is like
BRIPHOP.
90s. Yeah, which is like, and there are clubs that exist that strictly play BRIPHOP.
So yeah, like there's one Firewater in Glasgow, and the club actually splits into two places. And if you go into the left one, you'll hear like pop hits, electronic music, like that whole thing. If you go into the right, straight rock and roll.
Yeah,
that's so cool. That is super cool.
That's a modern club. And now that people 18, 19, those are the types going there, and it's still accepted as that as a mainstream legitimate element. A lot of people in America are like, "Oh, rock and roll's dead." Go to Europe, it's still living.
Yeah, and yeah, it's interesting because like Britpop itself is kind of hard to narrow down, but if you think along the lines of like band, like it's really band based. So like the 1975, if they were around in the 90s, would be Britpop. It's like Oasis is a Britpop band. Blur is a bit Britpop band.
Yeah, so there's
it's a weird specific thing, and it's tied culturally to some different things as well. It's really cultural based.
And I will say, we've found this really interesting thing too. It's when you listen to like a piece of music in the city that the artist is from, it makes like more sense.
Sense. I was just gonna say, Probably a
He's
lot
not
more
from
sense.
there. He's not from there, but we spent 2 months in California back at the start of the year, and we listened to Tame Impala, and it hit different. Like it was really, you could tell he's not from there. But like listening to Kanye in Chicago, when you hear flashing lights and see the Chicago skyline, it's different. And when you're listening here to like those 90s like grunge rock kind of things, you get it. It's like, oh right, okay, the aesthetic is right.
Mm-hmm.
The aesthetic is right. Absolutely. So what do you see in Louisville that's different? What's better and what's not good about DJing in Europe or music in Europe versus Louisville or
Well,
America?
I would say in Louisville is a great city. I really love Louisville a lot. There's no but coming. I really do love Louisville. There's a very interesting difference in like the class of people that are coming to it though. A lot that has to do with, honestly, I'd even put it down to like public versus private schools, where people came from, and that can judge your differences. I'd say in America, in the frat systems especially, depending on what frats that you're playing at, there are going to be musical changes there too. And it just gets harder because it's like, I really don't know, there's no well, I mean, maybe there is, but like, it is hard to find a transition between Sweet Caroline and Mo Bamba. But they're going to want to hear both. And that's very unique, I would say. Because you've got like Kentucky is like, there's always that argument, it's southern, but it's like the most northern south. And you see that. So there's like southern and northern definitely take hold in Louisville in a really interesting way. They smash together. And so you have people with really diverse tastes all over the place. And growing up in that and like starting DJing there was a really weird experience because you got a really unique music like palette from everyone. So you could play different songs at parties that would hit. And then you go to Chicago and it's like, oh, right, this does not hit here at all. Mm-hmm. But Louisville is really good at meshing a lot of sounds into one. People's palettes are really big in Louisville. They listen to a lot of different music, and they'll want to hear a lot of different music live as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Forecastle is a great example of that. You got like you can walk from like boom stage where you're seeing like some random trap artist, and then you can look over like the main stage where some pop group you've never heard of is performing.
Yeah.
And then there's like a strange violin quartet playing, the other one playing bluegrass music, and it's like, what? But at all three, people are going mad.
Yeah, there's always somebody. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Always somebody there who it's like, man, I would fucking drive 100 miles to go see these people. So I would say that versatility is something Louisville has unique to it.
So talking about, your all's music, what is your all's creative process like? Like, how do you go about making a song?
Throwing paint at the wall. It's like, as a whole, sometimes we approach from music standpoint, but right now what we're doing is we approach from a songwriting standpoint first. So with an album, it's different from like if you're just like making a beat in Chicago. It's like, all right, what's the kick sound like? What's the hit snare? Where's the 808? That kind of thing. But when you're writing something like an album, it takes more than that. You can't start with the instruments on an album. You got to start with the story that you want to tell, and you want to show the arc to it too. So it takes a lot more conceptualizing first, and then once you have that conceptualization, once you have the story, the arc and kind of things, and the things you want to hit on, and once you have the words to it too, then we just lay that down, and then the music comes from that. Not to keep going back to Kanye, but like listen to the lyrics of Jesus, and then the sounds around it make sense for it. It's dark, it's abysmal, it's like it's in a cathedral, it's all big, huge, life or death things, because that's what he's talking about in it too. Massive things. Tyler the Creator, he has like these beautiful sounds meshed with these like really hard hitting toxic 808s. And if you listen to his lyrics, he's describing being caught between two things, between being bombastic and over the top, but also being lonely and like not feeling like he was ever enough for things. And so so we wanted to do that exact same thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a good description of Tyler. His new album is awesome.
Oh,
it's
God.
so good, man.
I
And
would
like,
totally man.
The juxtaposition that he's got with DJ drama and then like, you know, like a bass clarinet and a flute is just like, dude, what? It's so cool, dude. I really enjoyed it. Any words of advice for producers and DJs coming out of Louisville, getting started?
Quit.
Why you say that?
No.
Because y'all about to take over. There's no competition. No competition.
No. I was just trying to throw people off. But yeah, lessen at the competition. If I had any advice, it would be that the most terrifying thing you can do is be yourself. And that is often what you're most afraid of doing is sometimes the thing that you need to do most. And it's very nice to make Drake-type beats and Kanye-type beats, but you've got to find the you-type beat.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thing with type beats is like, yeah, I get you're trying to, you know, get placements and stuff, but like these people already have beats that from producers that they make. That's a whole different story. Type beats is a whole different conversation. But anyways, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, no, that's honestly my biggest advice for people would be you got to take that leap of faith, and the sooner the better. And when you first start out doing that, it's gonna be well shit. It's gonna be well shit, and you're not gonna like what comes out. But keep plugging away until you find that thing that you do like. Because nobody, I promise you, if you just sound like everybody else, you're gonna fade away like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Harsh, but true.
But true. That's what you've got to do.
Yeah.
And it'll take a while too. I mean, my God, it took us like 3 years to come up with a single, and like it takes a while.
It does, yeah, it does.
That's when people really step out. Then you see it. I mean, Tyler the Creator. Who the hell sounds like him? Nobody.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's true. And to me, he's like Mac Miller in terms of always making good, relevant, different music.
Yes.
I wouldn't, you know, I guess you could say they might sound similar, but I'm talking about in terms of like consistency, you know.
Yeah. And then once you're there, the consistency that you can get from that. I think like Tame Impala and things like that, like, you know, once you get out there and find what it is, then people turn to it because not only is it good and not only does it make sense and it's valuable to them as people, but they've never heard anything like that before, and that's exciting.